Hi, I'm Sheila, and I want to share with you today the 3 secrets to a successful interview. I mean, over the years, I've interviewed many people, hundreds of people, but I've also spent a lot of time helping people, guiding them through the interview process and helping them prepare. And these are the things that I've seen make a difference, the things that really have an impact on whether you're successful or not at that interview. So the first thing before we start is I just want to say, if you're applying for a new job, make sure you're applying for the right job. Make sure it's a job that you really want, because if you really want it, you will then go all in. And you need to be going all in order to do your best at an interview. Because if you go to an interview and only do it half-hearted, they'll notice that you're only doing it half-hearted and you probably won't get the job, which knocks your confidence. So if you're going for an interview, go all in. So I'm going to assume that you're going all in, and we're going to dive into the 3 secrets. So the first one is preparation, because preparation is key to everything. And this is about taking your skills, your strengths, your experiences, and matching it to the requirements of the job role. So let's have a look. This is about gathering the evidence. So make sure that you're keeping records of all of the things that you achieve, because sometimes we just let the job carry on, don't we? We're so busy just doing the job that we forget to notice what we've actually done. And it's really critical that you start to keep a list of all the evidence, keep a record of all of the things that you've achieved, big and small, but focus on the outcomes, the results. What was it, the actual result that you achieved? What was the difference that it made? This is what people are really looking for. And when you go for your interview, it'd be great to already have that pack of stuff that you can look through. But let's assume for the moment that you haven't got that. So you're applying for a job. So write yourself a list. Write yourself a list of all of the things that you've done over the last 5 years that relate to this job specifically. Keep a list of it, all of the things, and remember to focus on the outcomes and the results that you've had. Turn any skill in that into a result or an outcome. Okay. And then it's about research. So research the organisation that you're applying to. You know, what are their values? What is their mission? What are their strategies? What is their top priority? Look at all the documents that they've got. Look at their 3-year plan. Look at any news, any press releases that they've had out there. And then at this point, it also gives you the opportunity to think about, do their values match your values? Because you don't want to be getting yourself a job at an organisation where you don't believe in what they're talking about. You know, particularly if you've got strong opinions about sustainability, for example, and they're a very commercial throwaway organisation, then you're probably not going to fit in. So make sure that at this point, as well as researching it for your interview, you do just do that sanity check and say, is this the right organisation for me? Make sure that your values meet their values. But then look into it all. There's always so much information on their websites. There's loads of stuff you can look at out there. You know, what is the language that they use? Are there particular words that they like? You know, do they want innovative people? What is it that they're talking about on their website? So just, you know, make some notes about what it is that that's going on, so that you can refer to it when you answer questions, when you're talking to them, that you can actually refer to things that you've seen on their website, and you can tailor your answers accordingly. And then the other bit of research to do, which people are often a bit shy about, is to research the people. So you usually get the names of the people that are on the interview panel sent to you. Look them up. Look them up on LinkedIn, look them up on Facebook, look them up wherever you can find them. See what you can find out about them. Because when you meet them, you know, an interview is all about building a relationship with the people that you're talking to. And if you've got something either in common, maybe you find that they like baking, you like baking. Maybe you find that you went to the same school. Maybe you know somebody that they know. Or maybe you just find something interesting out about them that you can ask them about, just to build that relationship. So do whatever research you can on the person as well as the organisation. Don't be shy about that. I'll tell you, if I was recruiting somebody for a, you know, particularly a more senior level job, and they hadn't looked me up on LinkedIn, I would have been very disappointed, because I think you're not using all the resources that are at your disposal. And if you know somebody who works at that organisation, then even better, go and talk to them. Go and get any inside scoop that you possibly can. And then when you're preparing, You need to tailor your skills and achievements. So you've got this long list now of all these achievements that you've noted down, but you need to make sure they're relevant to the job that you're applying for. So there might be things that you think that you've got great skills at, but are they interested in it? So the two things need to match. So when you're tailoring your list, make sure that you're only looking at the things that they're interested in, and not the things that you just think you want to share, because it needs to be relevant. So fit your examples. You've got this whole list of achievements that you've made, the outcomes that you've had, and you've now done your research on the organisation and the job. So fit your examples into their words and phrases. Think about how you might say, oh, I came up with this really innovative solution to a problem that we had. Use the language that they're using. Relate your experiences to what they're looking for. So looking at their top priorities, what experience have you got that you could relate directly to a particular priority or something that they're looking at? And then when you're preparing your answers, make sure that you kind of have some examples that could fit a couple of different questions, because of course we don't know what questions you're going to get asked at the interview. This is just about preparing for what, for the skills that you've got, the experience that you've got. So have a think about examples that, could answer more than one type of question. And also have a think about behavioural questions, because more and more organisations, it's not just about the technical skills that you've got, it's also about how you behave in a team, with your team, with colleagues. So have a little think about that as well. There's lots of information online about behavioural questions, competency-based questions, and often they tell you what sort of questions they're going to be asking you. So have a little look at that. And then there's one mindset shift that I want to share with you, because when we go for an interview, we almost go with a victim mentality, don't we? It's almost like, oh God, it's being done to me. I really need this job, and we get all nervous and stressed out about it. Just flip this around for a minute. Actually, the organisation is looking for something. They've got a gap that they need to fill. They've got a need. Now you can fill that need. So if you twist it around slightly and thinking, rather than you need the job, they need somebody in that job and you can provide the solution. They've got a problem, you can provide the solution. They've got a gap, you can fill that gap. So if you just think about it like that they need you, then suddenly it just twists your mindset around a bit and makes you feel just a bit more, okay, no, I know I can do it. I've got something that they want and I can solve that problem for them. It does just help. Okay. So a second secret, this is the bit that everybody misses out. It's the missing piece. This is about practice. Most people don't do enough practice, or they don't do the right sort of practice, even if they do some at all. Most people sit and practice it in their heads. They write lots of notes, but they don't actually practice an interview. And just like anything else, interviews, you get better at them if you practice them. But somehow it's difficult to do that because you're not going for interviews every day. You're not going for interviews. You might not have been for an interview for some time. So you have to find another way to practice it in order to get better at it. So the first thing here is to literally preempt the questions that you think you might get asked in the interview. Now, you don't know, but you've done a lot of research now. You've got your job description, you've got the job spec, you know what their priorities are. So sit and write yourself a dozen questions that you think they could possibly ask you. So just, have a think about it. Get somebody else to help you. Use some standard interview questions off the internet if that's what you want. But try and think about questions that they might ask you relevant to the job that you're applying for. And then you need to practice it. And this is about answering those questions. So you've now got a dozen questions. You now need to practice answering them out loud. Not in your head, because it all sounds very different in your head. When you start to say it out loud, it sounds very different. In your head, you can and ah as much as you like. You can start the sentence again as many times as you like. As soon as you say it out loud, it's got to come out in one sentence or one paragraph. So say it out loud. I promise you, even though it's going to feel really awkward, even though you're going to feel really silly doing it, hide yourself away. Nobody else needs to know about it, and talk to yourself in the mirror. Look at yourself. I mean, if you have got somebody that can help you, even better, if you're comfortable with that. If you've got a husband or a child or a colleague or a friend who can ask you the questions that you've answered, then that's fantastic, because that's like proper role play and you can really do that. But if not, just answer the questions yourself, but out loud. And then, of course, video yourself. So easy to do these days. Grab your phone. The quality doesn't have to be great. This is just about practice. And actually, it's a really good thing to do these days because there's so many interviews that are actually happening online now. You know, I know lots of people now who are never actually meeting the people they're going to work for, even in senior positions, even now. So it's a good thing to get into anyway, because you can practice setting yourself up, make sure you've got the right lighting, make sure your volume's fine, make sure your technology works. But from a practice point of view, set yourself up and practice it into video. Those 12 questions that you've got, they're listed. The practice that you've done out loud, now video yourself, because what you can then do is watch it back. And much as you might want to cringe about it, I promise you it makes all the difference, because you need to look at yourself. You need to hear yourself. So watch it back and look out for, are you speaking too loudly or are you speaking too quietly? Are you speaking too fast? Are you speaking too slow? Are you waffling too much? Is there too much going on, or are you not answering it enough? Is it too short? These are the things that you can do through practicing. And seriously, I have seen this make the biggest difference to people when they're going for interviews, because saying it out loud, it gets you confident because you keep practicing it. Don't just do it once, video yourself 20 times until you're comfortable answering those questions. And this isn't about getting it word perfect, because you don't want to sound scripted. You don't want to sound like, you know, you literally know the answers off by heart. And of course you don't know the questions, so you couldn't do that anyway. But this is about getting the message right. And the more you practice it, the more you say the words out loud, the more confident you get. So even on the day when they ask you a question and you're shaking in your shoes, you're really nervous, you'll perform better because you've practiced it. You've said these words out loud so many times over the few days before your interview that you feel more comfortable about it. And it will help you perform on the day, even when you're feeling really nervous. And then the third secret is all about performance. So this is how you show up on the day. And the thing to remember here is that you need to create a first impression, because you get about 7 seconds to create an impression these days. And it is about their perception of you, not how you see yourself. So just remember that other people will view you differently. There's a couple of things to think about here. The first thing is dress to impress. Now, this isn't about dumbing down your character or whatever whatever you want to show your personality, but it's just about being appropriate. And remember, it is about perception. So you need, this interview is your chance to create a great impression. What image do you want them to have of you within that first 7 seconds? That's what you need to be thinking about when you're deciding what to wear. And it's funny talking to people about dress, because you shouldn't have to do it really. But I can tell you that over the years that I've interviewed people, I've seen so many incidents where people have just chosen badly. I've seen women who are wearing really smart shirts, but it doesn't fit properly and they're gaping. They're gaping here, they haven't pinned it. And all that's happening is the interview panel are completely distracted by the fact that they can see the underwear. I've seen people who constantly have to fiddle and adjust with their clothes, partly because they're nervous probably, but partly because they've worn something that doesn't sit properly when they're in the interview. I've seen people who are very nervous and they have long sleeve cardigans on and they spend the whole time pulling the cardigan into their sleeve. If you know that you're like that, wear something short sleeved. If you know that you've got long hair and one of your nervous habits is to stroke your hair, tie it up. Just have a think about how you're going to behave on the day when you're nervous, because we do behave slightly differently when we're nervous. So be aware of it. So the things to think about around dress are to dress to suit the position. So if you're going for a high level corporate job, then you probably want to be fairly suited and booted, because you want to show that you're making an effort, that this is really serious, that you're capable. You might not ever wear that suit again once you get the job, but they need to know that you're making an effort and that you're serious about this. If you're applying for a job in a creative design agency, then actually, maybe something loud and gary is fine, or maybe a polo shirt and jeans is what they're looking for, something more casual. So just think about the position that you're applying for and dress appropriately. But dress so that you feel good. I'm standing here now, I'm at home, But I've got shoes on my feet, because when I wear shoes with little heels, I feel more professional. It's just something that I feel better in. So even though you can't see them, even though I'm just standing here at home, um, I am still wearing something that makes me feel good in order to do this. And that's what you need to think about. So even if it's a video interview, your dress is just as important, because it's not just about what you look like, it's about what you feel like. And then I'd definitely also think about being comfortable. So smart, but comfortable, because you don't want to be fidgeting with something. You don't want to be wearing something that's going to constrain you or make you feel, awkward or difficult. Or just, be comfortable so that you're not fidgeting, but wear something that makes you feel confident. So there's a bit of a balance there, but just think very carefully about the outfit that you're going to wear, and remember perception. Perception is what it's all about. What do you want them to think about you? Because people do judge, whether we like it or not. There will be a judgment made about you in that first 7 seconds. You might be able to change it, but it's much harder. So try and get them to judge you how you want them to judge you within those first 7 seconds. And then in any interview, this is about how you appear. So sit tall and proud, because when we're nervous, we often, we do fidget a bit more. We might slump a bit more, we kind of like hide ourselves. We want to be in that little shell. We don't make eye contact with people because, we're just feeling a bit nervous. But you need to sit tall. Now, this serves two purposes, sitting tall. Firstly, it gives them the impression that you've got an air of authority about you, that you know what you're talking about. But the biggest thing is it helps you, because sitting tall and having a good posture and a good stature, it makes you feel better. Even if you're just sitting at home, if you're slumped over like this, you just don't feel as good as if suddenly you unfold and stand upright, chin up, shoulders back, and you will automatically feel more confident. Even though you're not, it will give you the air of a confidence, and it will actually make you feel more confident. And definitely make eye contact. So you're making eye contact with the panel. If there's more than one person, then make sure you move your eye contact between them. Don't start looking at the ceiling or your hands or anything. Then, make eye contact. And then be engaging. Smile. No matter how nervous you are, smile, because all of these things pull you together. They make you appear like the authority. They make you appear like you know what you're doing, but they make you feel good as well. They make you feel more confident, so that when you start speaking, all the stuff that you've practiced, you will be performing at your best. And then this is remembering to talk clearly and concisely. So make sure you're talking in a way that you're understood. Think about making sure that your volume is loud enough, but you don't want people straining to hear you, but you don't want to be too loud either. Use short sentences, long paragraphs, long examples maybe, but short sentences, so that you're very clear about what you're talking about. And make sure you keep the answers relevant, because they'll ask you a question and sometimes we tend to go off on a tangent. Now, try not to do that, but if you do, then it's okay to bring yourself back. Just say to them, oh, I seem to have gone off on a tangent. Let me just get myself back to where I was. Or if you think you haven't answered it enough, then ask them, have I explained that clearly enough, or do you need something more from me? Don't ever be scared to ask the panel, what they're thinking about the answer that you've given. Do they want more information? Have you given them enough? You see people sitting bored, lost interest, then you're talking too much. And maybe you're waffling. Make sure that you're not waffling. Make sure that you give enough information to an answer so they don't have to drag it out of you, but that you're not giving them too much so that they're bored. And a little tip I learned many years ago when people are interviewing is, if they stop writing, they've probably heard enough. And that's the point where you stop, and perhaps you ask them, do they need you to clarify anything for them? Okay, so they're the 3 tips. But just to finish off, I would say, make sure that you've got an interesting question to ask them at the end. Try and think of something, really meaty, really juicy that they can answer, assuming that you've got time. Don't push them to answer a question as if they've run out of time. But it's always good to have a question, but don't ask a question for the sake of asking a question. Don't ask, some spurious question or how many candidates or anything. Definitely ask the question about, when will I know? But that's not the question that you're asking here. This is a question about the job or the company. What do you see the top priority for the person in this job over the next 3 years? What do you see the main challenges of the team? Think of something interesting that you can ask them that shows that you're really interested in the job and uses part of the research. Maybe you can say, oh, I saw that you've got a bit of a problem with your complaints process. What's the plan to rectify that? Find something that is interesting, that's relevant to the job and the organisation, because that will impress them. And then thank them for their time, and send them an email afterwards to confirm that you enjoyed the experience, and if they need to clarify anything, that you're happy to do that. So they're the 3 secrets to a successful interview. And if I have to recommend anything, then please practice, because practice is the single thing that has made the biggest difference to people's success. Now, the thing to remember here is that you won't get every job that you apply for. Unfortunately, no matter how well you perform on the day, it's very unlikely you get every job that you apply for, but that's okay. It's still an experience and still something to learn from. So if you don't get the job, then make sure you go and ask for specific feedback from the organisation. They owe it to you. I know it's difficult sometimes, but try and get a telephone call with them if you can, or some detailed feedback, and then review that feedback properly, in depth. Don't just go, oh, I didn't answer this very well. Oh, I knew I could have done that better on the day. Oh, I lost out to an internal candidate. Don't give yourself excuses for your not getting the job. You need to find out why you didn't get the job, so that you can learn from it, so that you can practice and prepare better for the next time you get the job. There you go. So, any thoughts or questions on that? Brilliant. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope it's useful.